but then okay. Okay, now what happened after when he had programmed this or explained this Four Noble Truths to the 5 recluses, and the result comes up there. So I'm going to read it, Sagaranda. Yeah. That is what?
This is what the first one said. Gratified, the group of 5 monks delighted at his words, and while this explanation was being given, there arose to Venerable Kondanya, the dustless, stainless Dhamma eye. Whatever is subject to origination is all subject to sensation.
Okay, so after when he had explained this Four Noble Truths, one of the recluses called Kondanya, Chao Chenu in Chinese, okay, and he actually had kind of like remove the dust in the eyes, okay, and 法眼身, sometimes we translate that way, okay. Let me see, yeah, and he removed the dust. He had removed the dust, In other words,
I think probably we ought to explain why in the previous paragraph it says that excel in the cosmos with its deities, Maras and Brahmas, and its contemplative and Brahmins. I think that's probably explain maybe it will shed light on some of the misunderstanding of the Buddha was part of the Hindu belief, because even Buddha himself proclaimed that after his enlightenment, he proclaimed that the truth that he has really discovered is Samma Sambuddho, and what the original word Samma Sambuddhi and Abhisambuddho. Because this paragraph, I think, is at least to me, we haven't have a clear understanding why he said this. Because to my understanding, the truth that has been discovered has not been found even by any deities, Maras, Brahmas, and all other religious figures. So that itself, this statement will give a very clear idea of that the Buddha Dhamma is not a part of the Hindu tradition.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Understand? No. 我用中文解释一下，就是说，因为在佛陀，因为他这一段的意思是说，他其实他觉悟了这个法，他重新借由观照四圣谛，然后了解12因缘，然后体证的这个法，他是其实
这里面讲12因缘，我们就暂时不说。
反正他就是借由他在最后他体证的这个法。他发现是在这个宇宙中，没有其他的这个天神 deities， 或者一般原文应该叫 devas。
天神啊 devas 啊，是啊，这里是 devas 对。
原文是诸神 devas。对，所以它翻成 deities， 然后 maras 就是你知道 maras
魔嘛
，Brahma 就是那个梵天，然后还有其他的这些 Brahmins， 还有 contemplative， 我不知道它的原文是沙门啊。就是这些出家的这些苦行者，然后他们发现，所以呢，他在最后这一段呢，他就是说，他这个法呢，他是自己就是亲证道，然后这个是在他亲证道之前呢，是这些人不了解，所以说他这个法是他布达达玛其实是就是跟一般人家会，因为现在有人会有一些 misunderstanding 说。其实有些印度教他会认为佛教是他甚至把佛包含在这个印度的这个宗教的思想，认为它是比如说它是一个化身 avatar， 但是其实如果我们自己从佛教的角度来理解的话，其实不是，这个完全就是这段就可以驳斥他们这种看法。对，那是他们从印度教来看佛教他们的认为，但是从佛教的这个理论基础上面，其实这个佛法是这是宇宙在佛陀没有成佛之前，就是没有人发现这些东西。了解吗？
所以不是燃灯佛受记佛，那不是燃灯佛已经发现了吗？
对，就是在这个佛，因为什么会有一个佛，就是说他在这个文明之中，他之前已经完全这个布达达玛已经完全消失了，然后在这个消失之后，然后重新有一个菩萨从天界下来投生，然后就经过这个故事这些过程，然后最后他借由他自己的力量，从他了解这个四圣谛法、八正行法，然后做八正道，然后了解这个12因缘，然后他最后再重新把这佛法发现，在这个 civilization 之内有一个佛。那我们也相信，在这个 civilization 过后，这个佛法会完全从这个世界上消失。那在下一个 civilization 出现之后，然后他这个就是这个弥勒菩萨就会从那个 to see the heaven 下来投生，然后会变成下一个佛，这是在另下一个 civilization。
I think in if you look at the what we call the fundamental Buddhism or the earlier Buddhism especially, in one of the period of time, for example now we still have the Buddhist teachings around, there is no one can become a Buddha basically. Like as somebody like maybe as a bodhisattva and they born in some place and then they maybe practice their meditation or so forth and they say, oh, I become a Buddha. No, because it is always believed that when the Dharma still there, the Buddha can only be born when the teachings is not there. Okay.
Yeah. So because the one of the definitions the Buddha is he will rely on himself to attain this Buddha Dharma without relying on any other. And he will be able
not relying on a God, not relying on this, not relying on, but then he rely, yeah.
He will rediscover this by himself, solely by himself, and he will be able to instruct others to attain whatever he has attained. And that's the meaning of the Buddha. It's part of the qualities of the Buddha. So,
yeah. That's why the Chinese say 人人皆有佛性. I think
that's a totally different things, though. It's Buddha nature is nothing to do with. Well, it's a little to do with this, but we're discussing that according to our fundamental understanding, what is the Buddha? What kind of like, for example, what kind of acts the Buddha has to do in order to, or Bodhisattva has to do in order to attain Buddhahood? He has to realize the teaching by himself or rediscover the teaching by himself. So if there's already Four Noble Truth or Noble Eightfold Path or dependent origination here in this world, and people has to know, and like now, there's no way according to the fundamentals of Buddhist understanding that there's no way that another Buddha will be able to exist in this very, very time.
Why don't we do it here? Because anyway, nothing to do.
No,
with
yeah, definitely. According to the early Buddhism, you cannot be a Buddha now. You can be Arahant, but you cannot be a Buddha.
Can be only one, and only one.
You cannot,
exists in
because one of the quality of the Buddha is that it has to be born the period, the time that no Buddhist teachings there. Everyone is maybe believing in God, believing in this, believing in that, but there's no what we learn now. It's that nobody will really know it, you know.
Well, unless
Okay.
you're in Taiwan, we have 3 Buddhas now.
No, that's just.
No, but I mean,
In Taiwan, we have 3 Buddhas.
I don't know why you mentioned Taiwan too, but I don't know who are they, you know. So.
I think he's just joking. 然后 joking 就是说有些人他会认为他自称的说他是什么一些活佛啊，或那个。
那为什么出现台湾有3个佛？
没有3个佛。
这跟台湾共3个佛没关系。
No, 不是这个。
No, there are 3 living people who proclaim they are Buddhas now. Yeah.
More than 3.
I guess this is a sign we're going to die soon.
All right. Okay. Any questions or what? No. Let's just finish this text first, and then we can have a little break, and then we should read the book. You know. So anyone want to volunteer to read the next one? So after that anyway, so the next one seems not insignificantly important, but actually it does carry a lot of message there too. What are they?
And when the Blessed One has set the wheel of Dharma in motion, the earth's devas cry out, at Varanasi, in game refuge at Isipatana. The Blessed One has set in motion the unexcelled wheel of Dharma, now cannot be stopped by Brahman or contemplated Deva, Mara, or God, or anyone in the cosmos. On hearing the earth's devas cry, the devas of the 14th heaven took up the cry. The devas of the 33 heavens, the Yama Deva, the Tusita Devas, the Nimanarati Deva, the Paranimita Vasavati Devas, the Deva of Brahma's retinue took up the cry. At Varanasi, in the game refuge at Isipatana, the Blessed One has set in motion the unexcelled well Dharma that cannot be stopped by Brahman, contemplated Deva, Mara, or God, or anyone at all in the cosmos.
Okay. So the next paragraph actually it's basically then hear the cry out, then they would just like kind of proclaim, Now, from this moment, basically, when this the first sermon was been addressed, and then other kind of the or higher being that been regarded in Indian tradition is very advanced, because some people believe that the most powerful being are like a Brahma, and some people that the most powerful beings are like a Parinimitta, Vasavati. Anyway, a different kind of gods in a different kind of levels of heavens, and then they actually it's somehow here when we say that all these even say that those are the marvelous thing, and then there's no way you could just really change the fact that now the first sermon is there now. Okay, something that they cannot stop by that. Okay. But maybe to some of you maybe thing is no. But imagine that was like if you were born in kind of like you maybe put it in the word like okay, and then the God and then the Jesus, and I cannot stop that. The fact that now the first sermon is been said already, then there's no way you overturn it, Okay. All right, and the last two paragraphs. Anyone want to read that? Yeah. So in the moment, that instant, yeah.
So in that moment, that instant, the cry shot right up to the Brahman worlds, and this 10,000-fold cosmos shivered and quivered and quaked, while a great measureless radiance appeared in the cosmos, surpassing the effulgence of the Devas. And then the Blessed One exclaimed, "So you really know, Kondanya. So you really know. So you really know." And that is how Venerable Kondanya acquired the name Anya Kondanya.
Okay, so in what moment that this heavenly being would cry out that? In which instance? In what instance?
I think it's when Kondanya, when he saw it.
Yeah, when Kondanya, as the first, you could say, as the first disciple of the Buddha, saw what the Buddha taught. Basically, saw the truth, the teaching, right? So and then it said, of course, then the Deva, from the lower level, like on the earth, the deities to the upper level and upper level and upper level, they all cry out, "Wow!" Now, kind of like it's almost like the kind of like a witness that okay, the first sermon is done, So nobody can turn that over and say there's no such a thing for the first sermon. So because you have to import, it's according here, it's very important to understand from Buddhist perspective is the Buddha attained the Buddhahood. He must be able, of course, let the people see what he has attained also. That means they also can attain what he attained. Okay. So in Gondanya, the first remove the dust in the eyes, okay, and reach to what we call the Dharma eyes or the Dharma eyes, and then all these kind of like the last moment of the show, ooh, everybody was proclaiming like that, and then this kind of moment, then the light comes out, and then the light, they want to say the surpass, because it's believed that the devas, the deities, normally in the body they will issue the lights out, and then actually the light is more brighter than that, and also go to the whole cosmos. So, and then the Buddha actually did ask, the last word is say, do you really know Gondanya? So, it kind of like, are you, can you confirm yourself that you really know? And then the Gondanya replied, yes. So since then, you don't call the name Gondanya, but you call Anya Gondanya. It means the Gondanya who has the knowledge. Something like that. Okay. So this is the first sermon. Why this is so significant, important? One thing is, of course, as I just mentioned, because the Buddha attained the enlightenment, that he must be able to deliver his message and let his disciple to attain the enlightenment too. That's one thing. And then anyway, I guess Sagarana just now trying to point it out also, a certain passage here trying to perhaps due to historical background, also trying to say that this kind of attainment, it's not taught by anybody but the Buddha himself, true understanding of to avoid the too extreme and vulnerable truth. So he attained himself, And this kind of attainment, it's surpassing actually that what people normally believe that, the God is more powerful. Actually, this is more powerful, something like that. And also, that is also a very important moment from the first sermon is then for the first time we have the Sangha. Just now I mentioned. But there's a little different. When we say the Sangha here, that means then the Buddha is not alone. Then you start to have kind of like a community, right? But here the community refer to the noble community, not the normal community, the Sangha. The Senqie嘛, the noble community. That is that Gondanya had become the saint, 就是真的果位 ，okay， 真的出果，其实就是讲真出果。So that's how he become the saint. He start to see the Dhamma. It's not just by hearsay, he attained that. So then, in other words, at the time, you have the Buddha, and then you have the Sangha. Okay. Of course, after the next few days, this is we are not going to read. I think maybe in the next, after the next few days, then, Senqie. No. Actually, the same.
那茄是什么呢？
Yeah, it just翻译 is a translation. Yeah, Sangha. So, but actually the word Sangha, it's originally not when I say originally mean at first it only refer to the noble Sangha. 就是贤圣圣嘛，贤圣，the sage, the saint, yeah. So it's referred to that. But later on, the Sangha referred to a community. But when you talk about the three refuge, like Gui, Fo Fa Shen, actually the Gui refuge is referred to the Xian Shen Shen. It's not referred to the community. Okay. Because then later on, this kind of the community, the noble community, be understood. Those who want to join the community, they supposed to can become the noble community. So okay, we have a break, And then if you have question, you may ask. Otherwise, we can leave it to the next because in the next chapter we are going to talk of Four Noble Truths again. Okay. So at least you have a little sense. At least you know this is. At least you have heard what is the first sermon now, and why they are so important. Okay.
我的观念啊，可能很困难一点，就是说，
You shut it down already?
那下上头，
Okay.
Page 25.
Yeah.
Oh,
还有没有中文的翻译啊？
有，
在哪里？
你说这个是
翻译
有书啊。
Okay, the page 25. No, don't forget about the Chinese translation. I mean, because in case that you want to talk to your son also in English, then you know it's no. I think.
我可以就这样子。
Okay. Anyone want to read the next one?
the second paragraph.
No. Page 25, the last paragraph, the long one. But you don't have to read all, but I will ask you.
Okay, I'll do it.
Okay. For the Buddha.
For the Buddha, this was the beginning of a life of teaching that lasted some 45 years. Many stories and legends are recounted of the Buddha's teaching career. Indeed, 14 of the 30 features given in the Pali sources as the rule of all Buddhas relate to it. To a large extent, these incidents are preserved by the earlier tradition in no systematic order, and it is left to the later tradition to organize them into a sequential narrative. Most of these legends must be passed over here, but it is worth just mentioning some since they form part of the common heritage of Buddhism and are again and again alluded by later tradition in literary texts and in painting and stone relief. There is the story of how the Buddha gained his two greatest disciples, the monk Sariputta and Mokkhalananda.
Moggallana.
Can I just read the Pali name?
Okay.
This is weird. Of how the monk Ananda came to be his
Not Ananda, it's Ananda.
Ananda came to be his attendant.
Yeah.
Of how the Buddha performed the extraordinary miracle of the pears, causing fire and water to issue from every pore of his body, and then ascended to the heaven of the 33 gods to give his profoundest teaching to his reborn mother.
Do you want to continue the reading?
Sure.
Okay.
There's the story of the Korean monks at the
Kausambi.
and how the Buddha retired to the Parilayaka forest, where he was attended by a lone elephant who had grown weary of the herd. Of how a monkey came to the Buddha and offered him honey. There is the story of the dispute with his cousin Devadatta, who attempted to kill him by releasing a rogue elephant, which the Buddha subdued by the strength of his loving kindness.
Okay. I guess we don't have question on there.
I love the long elephant story.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, after staying in a temple after a while, I cannot feel that for some of the months.
I see.
Like, because, yeah,
I see.
lay people have.
You know, actually, I think the next what just we read, it just after the Buddha gave the first sermon, of course. Then, so kind of like the whole structure of the Buddha's teachings go around with the first sermon. Okay, so and then the Buddha then spent how long? 45 years. It's very important. A lot of people forget about that. But why I say it's very important, because without that longer time, it's very hard for you to really clearly, to explain or to clearly to deliver your message, right? Imagine that maybe you read a teacher 2-3 years. Not even every day you with them. That doesn't mean you can learn everything from him. So and then this is very important. This is one thing why I like Buddhism. People always ask me something. I always tell them. I think if there's a lot of religion, if we compare all religion, if we look at it, Why I would suggest you to at least learn some Buddhism, because the Buddha spent 45 years trying to explain what he wanted to, what is attain. And then that is very important message. It's not like, oh, I just been here a few years and I die. Few years. Maybe you want to say something, you don't have the time, and because your student is not ready to, right, and so forth. Anyway, so, but then there are also many stories and legends that we heard, and then few of them he put it here. One is that how he had how he gained some of the very famous disciples like Sariputta and Moggallana and so forth, and then also and how the Buddha had performed some miracle power, and what's the reason why he. Those are the legends and stories are there, and then also they will also have another story which is a little negative side, that because of monks they quarrel. And then the Buddha was asked them then, don't quarrel, don't have a dispute. But they don't listen. But of course they are not fighting with the monk, the Buddha. They always say, Buddha, that's fine, you just stay. We look after you well. But then they still wanted to disagree with other group of the monk. And then other group of monks knew that this group of monks met him. And then they also come to talk to Buddha, say, Buddha, don't worry, just stay. We can settle out the problem. So then the Buddha knew that they have forget something more important. So anyway, then the Buddha left. Okay, in Mahayana Buddhism, nobody like to talk this kind of story, but we have to base. If you look at the Buddha, at least live in the earth, then he also as a Buddha he faced this sort of problem there too, and but there's a beautiful story there too, that when he went to the forest and he saw an elephant. Is the king of the elephant, have a long tusk, and then big, like a king, the king of elephant usually is the biggest one, and they have the very long tusk, and drinking the water here. And accordingly, then the Buddha can read the elephant mind, and he understood. The king of the elephant was so happy he could be alone. Elephant usually have to stay in a group; they don't go alone, right? But the king of elephant also get upset. He was what do you say? He was really tired of the life there, because every time when the king elephant want to drink the water, when they saw, oh, now there's a nice water, and the small elephant go to just stumble over the water, and and he never could drink a really, really clean water, and of course this is just one thing, but it means that the lots of problem within the group of elephants. So. And then the Buddha was kind of feel relief, saying, this is my word, say relief, meaning kind of feeling a kind of can relate the feeling, and saying that, oh, it's not only me, that I need to leave that monastery because they have a quarrel. I'm here, you as a king of elephant also, like that. And then another story is very important in Buddhism. This kind of story from all Buddhist tradition you have. It's just a matter of when you learn Buddhism, what they think is more important to tell you. But I think this is very important, And then one thing is the Devadatta. Devadatta is a cousin of the Buddha. So, because of they want to have power, and then they want to try the way to kill the Buddha. Okay, so kind of this sort of story, if you think it still be passed out in generation to generation from a Buddhist monastery, or I want to say that from tradition passed out from one generation to another generation, they still pass out because they want to tell people something. What of course how do you decipher what they want to tell you? It's another story. But then, so generally it's kind of telling you, even during the Buddha's time, there are people also jealous of the Buddha too, and then they will try all the way, First they will try to talk to the Buddha, say, give me the power, I want to become a leader. When the Buddha was declined that, and then he knew that he would not get that kind of power, and then another way that try to pursue the other people and talk to them. And then, of course, at that time, Devadatta was supported by one of the prince, okay? Actually later become a king also. But whatever, anyway, and then they have a plot to murder the Buddha. Okay? But even though it didn't succeed, but anyway. Okay, I think this is why sometimes the people ask me if they are a beginner, not necessarily beginner. They will ask me, what do I read in the Buddhism usually? I say, go to read story. And just like in a Christian, as I always say, even though you're not Christian, people are not Christian. So somehow they know the story, something. But unfortunately, hardly people know the Buddhist story. The story of the Buddha. Actually, there are so many things. 45 years. Let alone to say what did he taught in the text in this year and that year and this year. But the story, there were few main things happening to the Buddha too. Because why? This is a problem of sometimes the way that we learn Buddhism also. I mean, I'm not saying about you. I'm talking the way when I learn Buddhism. Always giving me something, actually, rather than actually tell me something. You know what I mean?
Telling versus showing.
For example, they usually say, "Oh, you can be a Buddha," for example, like that. Give me a 空头支票，对吗？ Right?
If they tell you a story, maybe you can understand yourself.
Yeah.
Other than just telling you directly.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Sure. Okay, now, we definitely, because this is a book, we have many things to talk about. That's why he would just put few main things here. There are lots more, about the story of the Buddha. Okay, and then that's why I say, okay, yeah, I'm going to read that maybe best. Yeah.
Thanks. As we shall see, it is one of the great emphases of the Buddhist teaching, that the things of the world are impermanent and unreliable. To the extent that the Buddha is of the world, then he is no exception. There is a majestic and poignant account of the Buddha's last days preserved in the ancient canon under the title of The Great Discourse of the Final Passing.
Very good, okay.
According to tradition, it was sometime in his 81st year that the Buddha fell ill. I am now grown old,
Ananda.
and full of years. My journey is done, and I have reached the sum of my days. Thus, my sum of days. I am turning 80 years of age, and just as a worn-out cart is kept going with the help of repairs, so it seems is the Tathagata's body kept going with repairs. As the Buddha lay dying between two blossoming sala trees, it is related how the monk Ananda, who unlike many of his other disciples had not achieved the state of arhatship or perfection, leant against the door and wept. Then the Buddha asked for him. Keep up.
Yeah, please, good.
Enough, Ananda. Do not sorrow, do not lament. Have I not formerly explained that it is the nature of things that we must be divided, separated, and parted from all that is beloved and dear? How could it be, Ananda, that what has been born and come into being, that what is compounded and subject to decay, should not decay? It is not possible.
Could you read the next one? We need to finish this part.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Buddha's death constituted his full going out.
Parinirvana.
And then, okay, that's just another, okay. The 12th and final act of all Buddhas. Before his death, the Buddha had given instructions that his remains should be treated like those of a wheel. Wheel-turning monarch?
Yeah, wheel-turning monarch, yeah.
And enshrined in
A stupa.
where four roads meet. After the Buddha's body had been cremated, various messengers arrived from districts in northern India, each demanding a share of his relics. The relics were thus divided into 8 pairs and
8 parts, not a pair.
8 parts, sorry, 8 parts and 8 different stupas were built over them.
All right, I guess I need to give it. And could you read the last one? the paragraph. Yeah. You?
This is where
Yeah.
This is where we began this chapter. It is possible that the Supa
excavated.
Excavated.
by the Pepi represented enlargement of older Supa. One that the
Sakyas.
Sakya directed over their share of the release at the
Relics.
at the Kapilavastu.
Kapilavastu.
Or Kapilavastu. The relinquished unearthed by Pepi appear to date from the 2nd century BC. More recent excavation at this site have the unearthed at the furthest relinquished without any inscriptions from deeper within the Supa. These may date from the 4th or 5th century BC. In that case, Pepi relinquished would seem to have been deposited when the Supa was undergoing reconstruction some centuries after the death of the Buddha.
All right, thank you. Right, do we have any thing to discuss on this paragraph, on those paragraphs?
问你问题，如果说哈，我们 anyway 都看佛是没关系的，那我们读他的书干嘛？
Please stay on the passage.
啊？
Huh?
那我们读他的。
No. We don't. We have to back to the book first. What we were reading. Do you have questions about that? Yeah.
Just personal experience. Read this sutra. I cried like 2 times during reading this.
Which sutra?
Mahaparinibbana.
Or 大涅槃经 in Chinese is
Especially
called.
when Ananda was when Buddha was dying and Ananda went out the door and the, against the door started.
Yeah, it's very touching. What the Ananda doing when he saw the Buddha is going to pass away.
不是另外一个大翻译。
Oh.
好几个版。
Okay. No, in Chinese it's called 大涅槃经. But you know, it's okay. Okay, 大涅槃經, huh? But we have to be careful when you say the 大涅槃經. It is in the Pali or even in Agama or in Chinese. You also have the same text called the 大涅槃經. The 大涅槃經, or it's or in English usually, or because you retain the original language, the Mahaparinibbana Sutta. So actually, it's the sutta contain about before the Buddha passed away, the 3 months what he have done. Nobody. I hope the people actually, if they have, like in the West, actually the story of Jesus record is so small, but people try to dig it out and put it. But the Buddha actually, before he passed away the 3 months, very clear mention where he went and what did he say and where did he meet, what happening. Okay, that is. But anyway, I don't want to talk that because it's quite a thick text. So that before the Buddha passed away 3 months or he knew that he would have to pass away already. So that's why the 3 months, he going from one distance, he walked long way up to the place that he said he just lie down on between the cedar tree. Okay. So anyway, the 大涅槃經 is it's a record. You could say the last word of the Buddha. So and that's not 大涅槃. But in the Chinese, you also have the Mahayana. So also called 大涅槃, but it's kept in the 大涅槃部, 大涅槃經.
That one is a very short script describing the river had the time to dry out, the mountain had time to destroy, something like that.
No.
That's
The one that you mentioned may be called 启示經. It's not that. Yeah.
very short one.
Yeah. But anyway, just remember that's one. But in Chinese, it's get confusing because Chinese also have about 3 volumes, these kind of volumes, okay, about the Dane Panjin. Actually, what they kept inside is very similar to Agama, okay, but they all call it as a Dane Panjin. Okay, anyway, that's I knew this is a lot to learn, but especially if a Chinese. Don't forget, because the Chinese is in old day, because that's why from the first class I mentioned, when you learn the Chinese Buddhism is much, much complicated in one way. Why? Because just like in America, imagine that in those days, stuff from the 2nd century up to maybe 11th century, the Chinese kept on translating the text from different sources, right? And then you have almost like you have different type of thing. Yeah, and then how do you understand all these kind of things? Or maybe sometimes they have a same thing that they have a different version translation, but lots of them which is not necessarily exist in some other place, but they just translate it, and then it's kind of like you have different variety of things, you know, and that's why it's a big job for Chinese to. And later on, how we can take all these kind of texts to understand that. And that's a... Anyway, we will leave that. Because actually, the more when you finish a book, in the end, you start to get the sense of it, or why and how. So, what we are reading now is really fundamental. Just 基础. But this kind of, the basic and the fundamental is really important. Otherwise, you lost, you know. For example, just what we discussed now. I don't mean that you have to agree. Maybe you say, no, I don't agree, but fine. But you have to understand the basic, the fundamental of teachings. To be a Buddha, it's only when you have able to discover yourself. And on the time that no so-called the Four Noble Truths, the Paticca the 12 links, and all what the Buddhist teaching is there. It's supposed to be not there. Okay. No. Just like you say, I'm someone who are really like the first one who discovers something, like maybe discover the quantum physics, for example. Okay. You cannot say I also discovered it after I also discovered quantum physics. And what is quantum physics? Let's say the quantum physics is a law, mean the universal law, right? Then he just discovered the universal law. Of course, the Buddha discovered this kind of teaching, the Four Noble Truths and that. What is that for? Because that is the one that you could cut off your reincarnation, don't reborn again. And that's why I call it Buddha. And that you could say he had a mission too, because he was a bodhisattva and waiting for the moment that when there's no teaching there, he came down, and when the place is ready for that. So, and we did mention that actually in the early text, say that, and it was the legend said he was waiting in the heaven already, the Dusita heaven, 就是在斗帅天嘛, and Dusita heaven, yeah, and then he was waiting for the moment down. But when he came down, of course, he had to be, subject to the fate of the earth, and because he was ripened, so he could able to see still some problem that people didn't solve, right? Even though in Indian religion everybody talk about nirvana, nibbana, but some understand nirvana as a kind going to heaven. Some understand as a kind like I'm finished, that I don't, But what is nirvana? But is that really the way that you could solve the problem of, the birth, the death, the old age, 就生老病死嘛? So and then now that's what why the Buddha, and then now why we believe in Buddhism, or why we are monk, basically, it's because of, I don't want to say any other thing, but it means that at least you have to believe that the Buddha have attended, really he found the solution, could stop that. Then of course then the Buddhism have a long history. I mean when you go along you will know. This is how you learn Buddhism. I mean we are talking the text now. We are not just giving a missionary word saying, okay, you believe the Buddha, you'll be safe from what, but we're really back to the Buddhist text and the Buddhist text. Understand that what I want to try to say, it's anyway, I forgot what I want to say. All right, maybe best. Time is almost up. So, any other questions on what today we discussed? No. Do you, Jonathan?
Not this time. I need to.
Okay, good. I hope that you find it is interesting. Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. Thank you for your coming. Then I will see you. Yeah, I will see you next time. Then. Yeah, next Tuesday. Is it next week? No, next week we have meditation. Yeah. Yeah.
2 weeks from now.
Oh yeah, I forgot to say actually. Please, when you come here, if you do have the time, just at least just to go through it, the nature of the Buddha, to the end of this chapter. We should finish the chapter about the Buddha. The Buddha.